How we doing, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Zappy, what are you trying to share over here? I'm with Idris, North Carolina. Zappy, San Antonio, Texas. How? How?
Gets the Angels on the board with his 30th home run. An absolute rocket.
Monster shot. Monster shot. Shohei Ohtani becomes the first major league player ever to hit 30 home runs and steal 10 bags before the month of July. That is phenomenal, fellas. Truly phenomenal.
Hey, look, I know you don't want to talk about it, but I said it yesterday. He is now ahead of Aaron Judge's pace to get to 62. This kid does not look like he is slowing down. It only looks like he is heating up. Like, everyone needs to start paying attention to this one. I mean, if you haven't watched Shohei play, you're missing out because this is an incredible player.
Yeah, insane, man. A pitcher.
Yeah. What Shohei's doing is it's different. What Shohei's doing is different for sure.
All right.
We know it hurts you to say that. Talking about Aaron Judge. But no, I think, it's cool, man, because we're getting ready to go into the All-Star break. Mm-hmm. And which we talked about yesterday, the trade deadline is approaching, and we see Shohei continuing to do this. And obviously we know that they need to add more talent around that team, but he is only stating his case that he deserves to get that $55 million per year contract and just shatter it. And I mean, when you
Victor Oladipo to the Heat.
Whoa.
He's back to the Heat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, back to the Heat, yeah. If he can get healthy, stay healthy.
Well, they did lose. They lost what?
Paul
Strus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, thinking about the free agency that's been going on, everything. We had to start off with Shohei, though. Go ahead, Rich.
Nah, what Shohei's doing is different, dude. Like I already said, he's on pace to beat out the American League record set by Aaron Judge last year, breaking the franchise record for the New York Yankees. Only three players have done it in the American League. All three happen to be Yankees: Babe Ruth, Roger Maris, and Aaron Judge. Shohei is on pace. I'm going to call it. He's going to hit 60 on the dot. That's my prediction.
It was 59 62. Yesterday.
I'm going 62, man.
I'm going 63.
I'm going 60 even. 60 even.
Richie,
by the way, they're down 4 runs in case anybody cared about who's going to win tonight.
But not to correct you, Victor Oladipo did not get traded to the Miami Heat. He's been with the Miami Heat. He got traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder.
He's played for them too.
Did I say to the Heat?
Yeah.
Did I say? I apologize.
Yeah. Well, he went back. He went back to the Thunder too. So
he went to. Yeah, exactly.
My thing on the free agency, I think Fred VanVleet. I think Houston overpaid for him.
Just the skosh. I mean, that's a max contract, bro. That's insanity.
$43 million. I mean, he's a very good player. I know he got a ring, but I think $43 million, 130 over 3 years. I think that's a little. I think they overpaid. It kind of surprised me that they basically closed the door on James Harden, which I felt they should, because James Harden is a stat man, and he's showing us that when the playoffs come, when you need him, game 6, game 7, whatever, he's nowhere to be found.
And not for nothing, the MVP of the league did it right next to him.
Right, and think about what he's had his whole career. He's had players, but he's always come up short. Always. It's like he just great player, great stat guy, but I wouldn't want him with the Knicks.
No, and that's my fear, bro, because I feel that he might be coming back to NYC.
I hope not.
I wouldn't want him there, but I like going back to Fred VanVleet. Jesus,
it's hard to say his name, dude.
Yeah, I think he fits really well with Ime Udoka with the coach there, and that's the big reason why I think they gave him that contract. Those numbers are big. Just like the NFL, we're going to continue to see these numbers climb year by year. So That one I think was a deal that everyone expected, but it might have been a little bit of a pricey deal. But I don't think it closes the door on James Harden, and I think that's a player that actually would fit well with Udoka as well. So it's a very interesting one. It doesn't put the Rockets over the top by any means, but it puts them. I think they're trying to send the message that, hey, look, we know we're building, but we're also bringing in some talent to keep it entertaining.
Yeah. Get the easy one out of the way. Draymond Green back, $100 million is what it tops out at. I think it was kind of the writing was on the wall when they traded Jordan Poole. I think that goes without saying. That was a pretty easy one to figure. Derrick Rose, former New York Knick, former Chicago Bull, former
Guns
Minnesota.
N' Roses.
Yes,
in
sir.
Memphis. Guns N' Roses.
He is in Memphis. I don't know how I feel about it. I thought he would have went back to the Bulls or maybe taken a lesser contract from the Knicks. I love D Rose. I'm kind of bummed, but at the same time, I know that his, playing minutes wasn't with the Knicks, so I want him to get some burn, and I hope he does really well. I really do. I love the guy, and I wish him well.
I think with him going to Memphis, I think it's that veteran presence because they got Ja Morant.
Absolutely.
With all this nonsense, bring Derrick Rose in.
You need a guy that can bring him back down to earth. And I think
he's a good bench guy.
Absolutely. A great teammate, a guy who understands it, and a fringe Hall of Famer because we spoke about that on our most recent show.
I think he'll make it in.
I tend to agree.
I think he'll make it in.
Well, and also with Derek, I think he needed to go to a team that he wasn't going to be the number 2 point guard. He was going to be the number 3. And, of course, Memphis just acquired Marcus Smart. So
I like that acquisition.
Yeah. So you figure Ja Morant and then Marcus Smart will be there. They're 1-2, and D Rose will see some minutes, but it's the same thing. It's the veteran presence that he brings. Mm-hmm. You got lucky that Ja Morant wasn't suspended a whole season.
Right.
So at least we know that in the first 28, 29 games, Derrick Rose will get to see some playing minutes. So that'll be the cool part about it.
But the thing about that was Ja being suspended, if you look over the course of his career, Memphis has played real well without him on the court.
Indeed.
So I don't think, and I think with Marcus Smart being there, you got your assist man and you got your defender. I think they'll do pretty good until
D Rose is going to get more burn with this particular
team.
He'll get
some burn.
Yeah.
He will.
Indeed. Los Angeles Lakers bringing back Hachimura. I like it.
Yeah.
They had to, and then they still have to do whatever they can to retain Austin Reeves.
You got to keep him.
But for Austin Reeves, he's going to get at a minimum $80 million over 4 years.
Yeah.
So are you willing to pay that? I think you've got to give him 4 for 88. Just get him back to LA. You cannot afford to lose him.
I don't think people truly understand how lucrative these NBA deals are because you could be like literally the 9th guy out of a 12-man rotation, and you're making more than possibly a top 5 running back in the NFL, a guy that is dominating the screen on your Sunday. The NBA, very lucrative.
Yeah, but I also think with the NBA, I think, and I got a lot of heat from saying this, I think the NBA has made the word superstar an overused word.
Indeed.
Because there's a lot of players I think are real good players, real stars in the game. But I figure if you turn the clock back, if you said superstar, you're talking Michael Jordan.
Indeed.
You're talking Kareem.
I'm with you
on
that.
You're talking Magic. You're talking about guys who, when you put them on a team, there's a real good chance they're going to win a title or at least get to the conference championship game.
Absolutely.
These days, everyone's called a superstar, but you need 2 more superstars to even compete. Look at Philadelphia. You got Joe Embiid. You have Ben Simmons.
That's your reigning MVP that won out like that. And we all know how the season ended for Joel Embiid. Yeah. Whoever Harden's new suitor is, and I have a theory. I'm not saying that it's going to come to fruition, but I think it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I kind of want to see Harden go to Miami because I actually believe that with the tutelage of Coach Eric Spoelstra and the Heat are going to be a little different look. 7 undrafted players. Mm-hmm. Eric Spoelstra did a phenomenal job. And if you follow their track during the playoffs, a lot of these dudes had the same shots in the finals that they had in the second, first, and third rounds. But unfortunately, they just weren't draining them. They want to get a guy that they know is going to be able to consistently hit those open shots. And as much as I don't like James Harden on the level that I think he's a very selfish player, and I think he has his own agenda, and he plays a lot of me ball, I do believe that with the right tutelage, like an Eric Spoelstra, a guy who is of the cloth of his mentor, Pat Riley, I think that James Harden could kind of have a rewrite of some of his legacy and kind of tighten up some of that legacy. That's my opinion. I think it'll be a good fit, even though I certainly don't want him with our squad. I don't want him coming to the Garden. Hell no.
You know, one that I'm going to keep an eye on, or it's a quiet one, but I think one that we're going to start to hear some sort of heartbeat to is Harden being traded over to the Blazers for Dame Lillard. That's one that I would like to see happen. I think if you could put Dame Lillard together with Joel Embiid, that would be something fun.
That could work. That could work.
You got a clutch guy now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the lane is open, dude. You know, obviously with Harden potentially moving on, probably moving on. I mean, you're talking about a team that it seemed like he had a decent enough rapport with Coach Doc Rivers, but I'm going to just keep it a buck. I didn't like the way that Doc Rivers kind of caved to him. I'm like, bro, this is a professional sport. This is a team sport. Why are you coddling this dude? You got to rub him on the back to give you 80%? Get the fuck out of here.
I'm calling Harden the LA Clippers.
It wouldn't blow my mind. That's actually could work.
Maxey and I think Maxey and Harden to the Clippers.
Maxey and Harden to the Clippers. So who would the Clippers be trading? Are they going to trade Kawhi or are they going to trade George?
Kawhi and Philly could be intriguing.
Nah, neither.
I mean, we already know Kawhi and Paul George are not safe. And if you're going to make a deal like that, you have to include one of those players. You're not going to include a Russell Westbrook. I just don't see that happening.
Westbrook, I don't know what his future holds. Miami. I just know that. Oh boy, that'd be. You talk about, dude. After seeing the brick display that they put on in the closeout game of this year's NBA Finals, and this is the crazy thing. Mm-hmm. Denver possibly played their worst game of the actual playoffs in that particular closeout. Still won the game, and I hate agreeing with Skip Bayless because you boys know how I feel about that guy. Mm-hmm. But he nailed it. That was one of the strangest closeout games in the final round of the NBA playoffs I've ever seen.
I think with Miami, I think Harden to Miami is not a good choice. Reason being, Miami needs length.
They also need to back up Jimmy a little. It would be a beautiful thing if he finds an heir apparent as opposed to.
I think they need another shooter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why I thought Harden potentially makes sense.
Yeah, I can't see Harden and Butler coexisting with each other for some reason. I can't see it.
I can't see it either.
I mean, well, Tyler Hero, that's another guy I want to speak on. Jack Harlow's boy, because
not enough balls, man. Not enough balls to go around.
Nah, man. And the thing is, I could see a situation where Tyler Hero gets moved because I think his value kind of went down a little, seeing how the Miami Heat were able to get to the finals without any honest contribution from him. Because when he broke his hand or his wrist?
Yeah.
When he got injured in the Milwaukee series, I feel that I myself said, "Oh, they're fucked. It's over." Mm-hmm. And you know, Giannis unfortunately injured himself a couple of days later. Miami won the series, but Miami has kind of been their Waterloo to an extent. They have a rich history with the Milwaukee Bucks, even going back to the Mickey Mouse championship rounds.
Yeah.
One thing I want to say about the Heat, though, is I kept saying Bam Adebayo, and then obviously they went on this run, and it was like, you don't break that up. But the way that the series ended,
Bam came like rather small.
Yeah, and I feel like now I see him on the way out.
Really?
It's weird because I think almost with Miami, it's like it's not good enough.
This is my thing, and I'm trying to remember if it was Wilpon that mentioned it or if it was Stephen A. himself. I have to revisit that. I have it saved up in my other room. But the point is, would I be out of line or out of pocket to suggest that Jimmy Butler is not necessarily meant to be a number one, that he's more like the supporter? I'll take it back to Chicago, for instance.
Wilpon said that.
Thank you, Idris.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is you saw some of his decision making down the stretch.
Horrible.
Horrific.
Yeah.
That fadeaway desperation three, which, believe it or not, he didn't miss by much, but I think the most disturbing one was he lost his pivot foot. He already caught a blessing that they didn't call travel because that wasn't travel.
That was travel.
And then he literally just throws it into the wave of the defense. I'm like, dude, call a timeout. You got two of them.
Right.
It's only your season. And that told me everything I needed to know about whether or not Jimmy Butler, I get it, playoff Jimmy, and it gets overemphasized. I get it. He balled out early on. And when you drop a couple of 50-point games or high 40s and 50, that beefs up your points per game average for the remainder of the playoffs. And I'm not trying to dilute what Jimmy did. What Jimmy did was awesome. But Jimmy, to me, is not a number one.
He's a 1A to me.
I think he's a 1, but he just needs a better number 2.
I think he's a 1A. I think I don't mean to interrupt. I think it's like Steph and Clay. Clay can handle his business.
Okay,
but
I like that.
Steph. Steph is the guy where you say, okay, that's the guy we got to watch.
So essentially what you're saying is it's, at the end of the day, it's all about facilitation. Like you can take it back to a guy like a Carmelo Anthony. If you track, he was a phenomenal scorer. But if you track his best seasons as an individual player and as team success, you track it back to Chauncey Billups coming to Denver, and you track it to Jay Kidd coming to New York. Certain guys need that presence. I don't necessarily know if I'm saying that the Miami Heat need an all-world point guard. I'm just of the belief that Jimmy Butler just doesn't make enough of the right decisions to be considered that 1A, because I'm sorry, dude. When I think about, and to your point earlier in the show, superstar, they throw that word around way too comfortably. When I think about what's a superstar to me, and I wanted to punch Brett through the screen about a week or so ago when we did that center show. He was like, oh, Shaq wasn't a superstar with the Orlando Magic.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, buddy.
You know who
and what I'm saying is they throw it around too easy. Superstar is Kobe. Superstar is, well,
Jordan.
You get where I'm going.
Yeah, because now it's the super team era.
It's a super team era, but the thing is, I think a lot of things get lost in translation. Like, how great is KD? I'm still not sure, because I'll give you the example, and Zappy will agree with me. At least I think he will. KD left the Oklahoma City Thunder and went up to Golden State after losing 7 games.
That's where his star built. But
correct, sir. Correct, sir. And this is a team that was already established and was already winning championships. Post KD, they did it again. KD didn't win shit in Brooklyn. He didn't win shit in Phoenix. And I got news for you. I thought Kyrie was going to Phoenix or the Lakers. I was proven wrong. He's back in Dallas. I don't know how I feel about that. But I think with Kyrie, it's going to be all ball. Back to KD. Back to KD just quickly, and I'll let you elaborate more on Kyrie. I feel that with KD, it's like a weird legacy because it takes a true professional to take a back seat, and that's what Steph Curry did, similar to what Dwayne Wade did. For LeBron. But when I think about KD outside of a Warriors uniform, he's a great scorer who's never really finished in crunch time.
James Harden.
Right. And then you got Wessie, who can't fucking shoot anymore. I think it's all pertinent to making the comparison. I said this on the other show, that I believe that all three of these guys, while ultra talented, and it goes without saying that KD is the best of the bunch, I do believe that they all are head cases in their own way. And in KD's case, and you know this, conversing with him on Twitter and knowing how to get under his skin, and our boy Superboy, our boy Michael Rappaport, the Gringo Mandingo, knows how to get under this dude's skin.
Yeah.
And it was proven, and listen, man, I said this on previous shows. In the old days, these cats used to be all about answering anything that had to do with basketball. The only thing that they didn't want to hit on was personal shit, whether it be a fling or family shit. That's off limits, and I respect that because I think it is off limits. Like, I know that Chris Webber wilded out when he had that thing going with Tyra Banks.
Tyra Banks, yeah.
Shout out Little Penny. He was such a happy little doll.
I love Little Penny.
Yeah, and I love me some Tyra Banks. But the point I'm making is like nowadays it's all chronicled through Twitter. And I think that sometimes the star that is built is not necessarily the star that has to do with your occupation, which is playing basketball.
These guys are just soft, man. I mean, they make it seem like today that if you talk about their game, you don't have a reason to talk about their game because you never played the game, blah, 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 blah. They forget these are journalists. This is their job. But one thing I need to say on the Miami thing, I think you know who would have worked fine with Jimmy Butler, but he's gone? I think if they sent the point guard there. Chris Paul would have done great with Jimmy Butler because
that's a good take, Idris, because he's a full-time facilitator. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about that, you take another veteran like what they currently have in Kyle Lowry. Mm-hmm. Those two veterans literally split the minutes, and then in the final 4 minutes, you have a situation where they're both on the court. Because let's be real, what the Miami Heat did is masterful, and it speaks volumes on their head coach, Eric Spoelstra. Mm-hmm. But do you want guys like Max Strus? That's what you're seeing.
He disappeared.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm not shitting on these guys. Like, dude, they have a role, and they overexceeded some of what that role entailed.
They disappeared when it counted, though.
Indeed.
I want to see Miami get Kawhi Leonard in that lineup.
Oh, you put Kawhi on there. That's a championship caliber.
Team right there.
That to me is the perfect
that takes a big burden.
Because you got to finish it.
Massive burden off of Jimmy Butler.
You got a finisher.
You put in
an attacker.
Obviously, he has to stay healthy. He has been often injured.
And you got a defender.
Yeah, and defender, yeah. You got what you need. One with some long arms, something they didn't have against Denver. Mm-hmm. They just had Adebayo. That was it. And that's why I said they throw the term superstar around too much because there's so many superstars joining each other. But if you look at the last couple of championship teams, Golden State was built basically through the draft.
That's exactly, and of course, role players.
They were
and I argue that. I will argue that always.
They were homegrown. Milwaukee, homegrown,
and that's why it was important for them to keep Chris Middleton.
Yeah, Denver, homegrown, and they beat these super teams.
But I'll be real with you. That's part of the reason why, and I even said it. I think it was as early as just the other day, why I don't see Denver necessarily being a dynasty mode team. Like I know Brett and I got into it a little the other night because he was like, "Oh, they beat an 8 seed, and this and that and da da da." I'm like, first of all, this is not yesterday's NBA where having home court was everything.
No,
the Denver Nuggets were the best team and exemplified that during the 82 game slate.
Straight through, start to finish.
You know, it's not their responsibility that maybe the East was weak because I called myself out. I said it on previous shows. The internet always wins. You can call me out on it. I wanted the Boston Celtics. I wanted the Milwaukee Bucks out of there. But, you know, the team that did us a favor ended up knocking us out of there. No, I'm going to keep it I'm going to be honest, dude.
Right.
If we pull off that game in Miami in Game 6, which was incredibly close, do we win Game 7 in MSG? Yeah, we do. It didn't happen. Did we go to the NBA Finals? Do we go to the NBA Finals? If we would have drew Boston. Yeah.
I think we would have.
But I'm going to be so freaking humble and honest. The Denver Nuggets would have swept us.
Dude, they beat.
We might have got
the
one.
Team.
Might.
That's a big maybe, buddy. That's a big maybe.
Might.
The only team that matched up to the Denver Nuggets was the Los Angeles Lakers. It was the only team in the East or the West.
You know why?
So
they were long.
They were long, and that's why it was. And that's why we see what the Lakers are doing in free agency, bringing in Gary Vincent from Miami. They know what to do. They know. All right, well, you know, we're the only team that's really matched up right now to beat them. But right now, Denver, I will argue that this is a team that could be possibly building a dynasty because they are literally not paying anything to anyone. Well, yeah, Murray got paid last year. They could still go in he's locked up. They could still go out there and get a star if they wanted to, but they don't need to. This Denver team is going to be together for the most part for the next few years. They did it the same way the Warriors did it. So that's why they might just bring in the one guy. And,
Exactly.
we see what the Spurs are doing now. They're trying to do it the same way. And that's what won the Spurs many titles.
It's been their track. And it's interesting because I think it's fair to say that while the Euro step, Euro ball in general, just guys that are big, but it's a different NBA nowadays. The big man is gradually coming back. And I think it's timely for a team like San Antonio, who, as we all know, built on the back of guys like David Robinson, Tim Duncan. This is the next great big man. Prior to those players that I just mentioned, you can hit on George Gervin. He wasn't necessarily a big man. He was a small forward. Yeah.
You had a lot of people.
Guy played above the rim. George Gervin was a special character.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to get at is it's so fitting that he would go to San Antonio under a similar comparable situation to how they acquired Tim Duncan when he was done with Wake Forest.
And the thing about it is
Spurs got a nice little future right now.
It's good that he did go there because he has Duncan to tutor him.
Yeah, bro. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Sean Elliott. All these guys are like rallying around him.
That's a tight-knit organization.
That's not a tight-knit organization. That is a family. That is what that is.
And they built their dynasty.
Thank you for the correction because you actually hit that better than I did.
I mean, I just saw – obviously I live in San Antonio, and I see a photo that just came out in the local news of Wemby, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Sean Elliott, and Manu all together. Just like you don't see that very often.
But you're talking to two Knicks fans here. Do you know how embarrassing it is that Charles Oakley a couple of years ago got kicked out of MSG?
That was crazy.
Even more embarrassing that they had to ID Patrick fucking Ewing, who has his name up in the rafters, the greatest New York Knick to ever do it. Do you know how embarrassing that is? That's the Mecca, pal. Right. That's the Mecca.
This is what I say about Golden State when they say, Chris Paul is going to bring some value to that team.
Absolutely, because he's not going to be Jordan Poole popping up for three in the fourth quarter.
He's not trying to be a fake splash brother. He wants to give you the
ball. You can shoot.
Zappy, what has been my biggest critique of your team pretty much for the majority of this basketball season? They live and die by the three, but they don't necessarily do it responsibly all the time. And I get it. You have some phenomenal talent on that squad. And you have a hell of a coach. You locked Draymond in to end his prime as a Golden State Warrior. Yeah. You bring in a Chris Paul, who's going to be a massive contributor in the final 4 minutes of ball games.
Look here.
This is the thing. They're going to take the right shots. They're going to take the best shots, and they're going to alleviate a lot of the pressure off of Steph Curry. Remember when I always tell you tweener. I always say that about Steph. I have nothing but love and respect for Steph. But Steph, to me, needs the true point guard to elevate everybody else around.
And that's why, I go back to the playoffs, and the one series I will remember from this past playoffs was Jordan Poole popping up for three.
That was ridiculous.
And it was just like, what the hell were you doing?
35.
And in that moment, Jordan Poole's responsibility was not to be the shooter. It was to be the fourth quarter facilitator. That way, two of the best off the ball basketball players in Steph Curry and Klay Thompson could do what they do best in the fourth quarter. They live and die by the three, but a lot of those threes were not from Steph or Klay. I will say Klay, though, especially in that Lakers series, he kind of did disappear. Mm-hmm. There was no Game 6 Klay, but at the same time, some of the shots he should have been taking were shots that were forced because he didn't get to do off the ball stuff, And when you have Jordan Poole doing that, it puts your other players into a stressful situation where they have to force more threes.
And not only that, you got to compensate for poor possessions, but you also have to compensate for the lack of length, the lack of being able to body underneath. Draymond. This is my vision for your team this year. Draymond is going to take on an even bigger role of looking more like a clone-ish Rodman figure, where I think he's going to totally hone in on being that enforcer, that rebounder, exactly, and making a very expensive goon at that.
Yeah,
but making sure that people fear coming down and thinking that they're going to have a party in the lane. Because what people fail to realize, it's not what the stat sheet looks like. It's the mental. It's what Chris Paul could bring to them. Because Steph, this is my issue with Steph, or his role, so to speak. I will not argue with anybody that he is more than likely the greatest shooter in the history of the NBA. I have no problem admitting that. But my issue is you can't be both. You can't be part-time facilitator, and then when the lights are on, I must make this three. And let you know, if there's a weakness in Steph's game, he doesn't necessarily have the ability to just take it to the hole at will. In this era, a little more frequently. If he played in the 80s or 90s, God bless him.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that now that you bring in a guy like Chris Paul, who is literally a facilitator, it's going to just make everyone around him better. And I do believe that Golden State just closed the gap on the Denver Nuggets and probably jumped the Lakers because of that acquisition. And this is a guy that was getting pushed out of Phoenix.
I agree because, see, Chris Paul, he's smart. He's going to penetrate. And it's like his eyes are always moving.
They're always there.
And that way, Clay doesn't have to really fight to get his shot. Steph doesn't have to fight to get his shot because you have to keep a man in front of Chris Paul. He's coming in. He's coming in.
Absolutely.
And no telling where he's throwing the ball. And I think it's going to help guys like Wiggins down low, Looney, definitely Clay and Steph.
You're going to get max production out of guys that haven't necessarily thrived in a bigger suggested role. I like it. It's way too early. It's way too early to even flirt or predict what's going to happen in next year's season. But I'm going to get way ahead of myself, and I'm going to tell you what I think. Just way ahead of myself. NBA Finals, a little bit after this time next year, a little bit before this time next year. Golden State Warriors, Boston Celtics, a rematch.
I don't think Boston.
Kristaps Porzingis is going to ball out and surprise people.
I forgot they got.
I have a feeling that he's going to be a very pleasant surprise, and I don't wish Boston any wealth and any kind of extra, but I'm just being very subjective. I have a feeling.
I'm going.
You with me, aren't you?
No, I'm going with the Bucks.
I'm going to go State in the Bucks.
Yeah,
Denver the Bucks.
Because when the second Giannis got hurt, that team changed a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was the Aaron Judge effect.
And then not to mention that, they now have a new head coach in the building. They got Middleton back. They have to do this is the important one I want to talk about, which that's the big one. But I think giving Middleton that deal may have priced Lopez out of their range.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about them is, which ties in with the Warriors and other teams as well, is everyone is watching carefully because comes September 22nd, that is when Giannis is eligible to re-sign. We know he's got a $51 million option coming up next year, I believe it is.
He ain't going to win, dude. He ain't going to win.
Well, whatever the case is, I think it's possible. Because if there's one thing, the Bucks said, hey, we're going to keep Middleton to try to keep you, but it's not enough yet. And that's why you got to keep an eye with the Warriors because they still need one more piece. I can't put the Warriors there yet, and I can't make my predictions yet because we're only in the preliminary free agency.
And like I said, way too early predictions. We're coming up on roughly the 26-minute mark. I want to flip it back to what we started the show with. Shohei Ohtani, also Major League Baseball. By the way, Zappy, I do want to congratulate you on acquiring what I think is actually a hired gun and a very good acquisition in Aroldis Chapman, former Cincinnati Reds / New York Yankees / Chicago Cubs / again New York Yankees closer. I think that and the Kansas City Royals as a setup guy for Scott Barlow. I think you're catching him at the right time. I think this is a great situation for Aroldis Chapman to thrive in. And if it doesn't work out, I think the risk is relatively low. I don't think it's that bad. Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't know what to say about Chapman, man. I mean, I think it's a good change of scenery. I think it's good. But God, man, that guy.
You're traumatized by some of his
Yes,
shenanigans over the last 2 years. But this is the thing. I think.
I hope he does well. I really do. But
I don't think it's a coincidence that he goes to Kansas City and all of a sudden his velocity is back.
Right.
I believe that with Araldis, Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton agree on 5-year designated maximum contract extension. Holy moly, 260 per Woj. Golly, bro.
Wow.
I mean, it's the market. Like I was saying, guys, we're going to see these contracts continue to go up.
But wow, I mean,
yeah, you got to pay your youth. You got to pay your guys, and that's their best player. They have to pay him that.
Yeah.
You know, but to go back, hey, yes, Aroldis Chapman. Yeah, I think, like I told Richie earlier today, I think him playing in New York, while he didn't play bad.
No, he had a couple of good years.
He had some good years. He just,
right.
Turn our blood pressure up too high. That was all.
Right. But then you see what he's doing over in Kansas City. He's putting up very good numbers right now, or was putting up good numbers for the Royals. He hasn't allowed a home run this year, for one, and that's a big one in my book, especially for this Texas Rangers team who you can see the things that are hurting them. That's what we're going to start addressing.
You need a left fielder.
No. Yeah, we still need an outfielder, and that's why I said McCutchen yesterday. I think that's someone to keep an eye on for us. I like the Chapman trade. I think he is not an image of himself while he was winning the World Series against the Indians in 2016, but I think he's got enough of it left in him that he can succeed, especially in the AL West.
Yeah. This is the thing. You got to counter the machine that is Shohei Ohtani, and let's be real, Shohei's phenomenal season is also kind of reinvigorating Mike Trout. Now, I'm not trying to dilute the player that Mike Trout is, but I guess what I'm trying to say is an off year for the Astros, given the injuries.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, they took game 1 tonight against us.
It is what it is. It's one ball game. But the point I'm making is, in an off year for the Astros, this is an opportunity for a team like the Angels, a team like the Rangers to be first and second, however you split that. Maybe in my personal opinion, there's all kinds of time left in the season. I believe that the Houston Astros are going to be the odd team. I think you're going to have the Rangers and the Angels in the playoffs, in addition to the Tampa Bay Rays, in addition to the Toronto Blue Jays. I didn't say the Baltimore Orioles. The Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees. I think the Orioles are going to fall out. Zappy, you asked me a great question on yesterday's show. Should the Orioles move on from Matt Holliday's kid? I said no. Would they get a king's ransom? Potentially. But I think that you got to trust the cultivation, so to speak. I have a vibe that in the second half of the year, the Orioles are going to fall back a little and Toronto and the Yankees are going to fall back in. The reason why I have such a high faith in the Yankees isn't because I'm pleased with anything I've seen over the course of the first half of the year. I'm going to be honest. I'm very frustrated. But one thing, if I'm looking for something positive, that bullpen has been lights out and Rodon hasn't even thrown a pitch yet.
Right.
If Rodon comes to form similar to what he did on the West Coast, the Yankees are going to be in a very good position, and we're going to have Aaron Judge back. Let's just worst case scenario. Worst case scenario. August 2nd, Brett's birthday, he'll be back.
But what about this? What about the Mets?
Oh dear.
God, we spoke about that last night.
Oh no, I'm throwing shade. I'm just throwing shade out. That's all.
Oh no, sir.
We took a hefty fucking dump on those guys.
I know that.
You caught that, Idris?
Yeah. I'm just throwing some more dirt on them. That's all.
Oh, I'm just waiting. Well, the first step is Buck Showalter has been fired.
What did I tell people about Buck
Step
Showalter?
2 is going to be you trade Max Scherzer.
Grizzlies, Desmond Bain agree on a 5-year, $207 million max contract extension per Woj.
Listen, I told Yankee fans when they said, we need a fireball and get Buck Showalter. I said, Buck Showalter will not last 2 seasons in New York. I told people.
You weren't lying, dude.
He does not adjust. He does not adjust.
I said this.
Way.
And you saw it yesterday on the show.
Yeah.
similar to Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
The game has passed him by. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the man doesn't know how to educate players on the game of baseball. I just think that today's game has passed him by. You know who's one of the rare guys that seems to stay above the water, even though he goes against the system, so to speak? And I hate this fucking team.
Francona.
Well, Francona goes without saying, but I don't hate Francona. I have a high respect for him, even though he broke our hearts in 2004. Another Red Sox manager who's the current guy, Alex Cora.
Alex Cora, yep.
Alex Cora, listen, like him, hate him, indifferent, whatever. You're not indifferent if you're a Yankee fan.
Yeah, but he's in last place too.
Indeed. But let me tell you something, dude. Those fuckers took 5 out of 6 against us so far.
Which surprised me.
Yeah.
The Mets, Buck Showalter, I argue up and down for the past couple of years about Buck Showalter. Yeah, but look what he says on TV when he's on ESPN. I said, anyone can talk on TV and say, this is what you should do. But when you have to get down on that field and do it, like I could tell you what Aaron Rodgers should do, what Daniel Jones should do. I could analyze everything with film. But when I get down on that field and I have to coach them, everything, the bullets
different animal, brother.
And I
it's
said,
a different animal.
Showalter is an old guy, and I'm not dissing the OG because I'm an OG too, but he's a guy who does not adjust. It's his way or the highway, and he's the one that's on the highway. Yeah,
he's about to be hitting the belt going east.
Right back to ESPN, Bristol.
Yes, sir. On the way to Bristol, let's take a 3-day road trip.
Go Mets.
Yeah, the Mets. It's time to blow. I made a comment the other day that they could be a team that could be the Phillies next year, but this season. And
he didn't believe it when he said it. He didn't believe it when he said it.
They talk so much shit in the offseason.
Bro.
They talk so much shit. Yo, they talk so much shit.
This episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast is dedicated to the one and only Richard Thorney. Go Mets.
Love you, Rich. Love you, Rich. But fuck your team.
Right. Twice. 3 times.
As you see Mr. Mickey Mantle behind me enjoying the Jim Beam.
Pablo.
Okay. What else do we want to hit on tonight? Well, we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, with potential deadline deals. Idris, just as much as me, diehard Yankee fan. Mm-hmm. It goes without saying that our offensive power outages have been very frustrating because I do believe that if we had a functional offense with Judge, without Judge, we'd probably have 8 to 10 more wins this year and are probably sniffing the Rays. But this is my question to you. What do we need moving into the second half of the year at the trade deadline? I told the people what I think. What do you think?
We definitely need Judge for one thing.
No, that goes without saying.
We need to be healthy. We need people who's going to put the ball in play.
Yes.
We need our starting pitchers to be starters.
Yeah, they gotta take a little bit of a burden off the pen without question.
Right. We don't need the pen to save us night in and night out. We need 6 or 7 innings from our starters. We need to put people on base and stop looking for the big shot. We need Giancarlo's.
Yeah, he needs to step up. Now let me ask you this: positionally. Mm-hmm. Left field, do you have a player in mind, or do you just have like a solution in mind, or you think they're just going to try to thug it out and see what happens?
I think we'll probably thug it out. Mm-hmm. I think we will, because we're not bad at what, but right behind the Orioles, and they'll fall bad.
I'll be honest. It's a weird situation because I think the Yankees are trying to be patient because they've seen glimpses of certain players. Like Oswaldo Cabrera has been disappointing for the most part. Billy McKinney stepped up and surprised some people. I think the Yankees are trying to purposely be patient to see if one of these guys with extended at-bats with not the short sample size can be somebody. And I think that's part of the reasoning behind it. Now, Giancarlo Stanton, I'm just going to say it the way I feel. Mm-hmm. The New York Yankees need to get out of that.
Yeah.
He's a one-trick pony. He's a home run hitter, and yes, he does get hot. Mm-hmm. And I'll give him credit. He carried us to the playoffs in 2021. He got incredibly hot, and were it not for a bad go sign, and were it not for barely missing 2 home runs over the monster, the Yankees probably beat the Red Sox in that 1-game playoff a couple years ago. Maybe we get hot. Who knows? Point to be made though is we never received the MVP that we thought we were paying for.
We need hitters. We don't need sluggers.
You need
table setters,
exactly.
and you have two of those guys. Volpe is gradually every
Yeah.
game that man plays, he's getting better. He's getting more seasoned. Shout out IKF. I think he's been a godsend for the way that he's been
Mr. Everything.
Mr. Everything and just doing whatever the team needs. I respect the shit out of him for that.
Right.
But we need a Rodon sighting and more than that. And Domingo Herman enhance what his season off of what just happened, or is Richie Dorney going to be proven wrong? Was he just playing against a single A team?
Look, I agree with Idris. I think you guys need hitters more. You don't need pitchers. You need hitters.
No, we got the pitching.
And you need guys that can get on base. You only have three starters, that are hitting over 250.
That's embarrassing.
You only have and 5 total players on your team that are hitting over 250.
Right. Now you think about some of the great hitters that played for this organization. Do you know how embarrassing that is, dude?
Yeah. And then I'm going to say Donaldson, what is he hitting? 143 on the season. Right. Anthony Volpe, I'm sorry, while he's improving, he's still only hitting 212.
I can forgive that. That's a rookie.
DJ LeMahieu, 227.
LeMahieu might be the odd man out moving.
Yeah, don't mention LeMahieu's name. Please don't mention LeMahieu's name.
Yeah. Like what I'm saying is this team.
I'm just saying, don't mention it.
The Yankees need to go out and get some stuff.
Yeah.
Because right now, while you guys you could say, hey, every time that we've thrown a perfect game, we won the World Series. Fact of the matter is, when you go up to play against a Tampa Bay team that can put runs on the board, a Texas team that can put runs on the board, Houston could put runs on the board. You don't have the firepower to keep up with the AL because the AL teams, they can hit the ball.
And if you can't consistently apply pressure on who you're playing, no matter how good your pitching staff is, you're going to fucking get beat because you're going to get tired.
We're still in the race, still early. All-Star break hadn't come yet.
I think that it's going to come down to the final week whether we do or don't qualify for the playoffs. And listen, dude, I'm not one of these snobby Yankee fans that considers a playoff berth a fucking failure. I'm not that dude.
Right.
But having said that, I don't want to clog up a playoff spot if we're not in motion, if the wheels aren't turning in the right direction. Like Harrison Bader goes without saying, when that man's in the lineup, he makes an impact. Defensively, I think Jose Trevino is one of the most underrated catchers in all of MLB. He does a phenomenal job calling games. We're missing Jonathan Loaiziga, but I do think that the pen has really stepped up. And as much of a guy, I'm not a big Aaron Boone guy, I do believe that for the most part, he's handling the pen well. And to your point, Idris, and I think you nailed it, the Yankees need to get more out of their starters. And it's forgivable to a level because the starters aren't the starters. Sevy just came back. He's still working up his pitch radius, so to speak. Nestor Cortez is currently injured. Rodon, God willing, might even pitch as soon as Sunday. Tomorrow is a doubleheader in St. Louis. Today was postponed. So
Cole needs to pitch good when we hit good.
Yeah, I know.
Pitching good when we can't hit a damn thing.
That was wild, and I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah. Read that, Richie. Make sure you let everyone know what you're reading right now. Read that out loud so everyone knows, because that's
Shohei Ohtani, of course, the dual threat hits the long homer of the 2023 MLB season, 493 feet, edging out 143, Mr. Donaldson, who I'm not going to overly exert myself, but I think he had the second longest, which goes back to yesterday.
Shohei's a beast, man.
2 days ago.
The guy's incredible, man.
Yeah. Shohei is incredible, but he's not catching Judge this year, and I said it.
I hope he doesn't, but I think he'll tie.
I'll tell you what. I'll trade in him catching Judge if we win the World Series.
I hope he hits 74.
Listen. I know
I want
he's
anyone hit 74 just to get rid of Bonds and McGuire.
Yeah.
I like Bonds, but McGuire so
Barry Bonds. I had this conversation with a friend. Barry Bonds was so damn good that he never needed that crap, nor did Alex Rodriguez. And I've said this on so many shows.
He did. Yep.
Bonds'
Bonds' years in Pittsburgh before the
Yeah, he was a full
was Hall of
faceted
Fame right
player.
there.
He was a 30-30 perennial guy, and that's when
Yeah.
hitting 30 home runs actually meant something.
Yeah.
The worst part is he didn't need the steroids.
He didn't
No,
need
sir.
them.
No, he had speed. He had the whole dynamic. He had the whole
Speed.
dynamic of being a
Yeah.
phenomenal. And let's be real, guys. He comes from great baseball stock. You're talking about his father, Bobby. You're talking about Willie.
Yep.
That is phenomenal baseball stock.
He didn't need the steroids, man.
I completely agree, boys. I couldn't agree more. By the way, I do want to let the viewers know I spoke to our guy Zay today earlier. Mm-hmm. We're going to be setting up a hip hop show in reference to the biggest beefs in hip hop history. We're talking about just songs that just crushed, like knocked it out of the park. And I do want to get with you as well as Zay and speak on some of the rankings. Okay. And we're going to get into that. Now, it kind of passed time today, which was good for me.
Yeah.
And, whenever I'm talking sports or whenever I'm talking hip hop, I just opens up the third eye and it makes everything just better. Like, I'm just going to
right on.
Just makes it better. But we want to talk about the best diss tracks in hip hop history. You, Zay, and I are going to get on that. Anybody else that wants to chime in, more than welcome. So definitely want to let the viewers know to keep an eye out for that. We will be promoting that show and let you know when that's on the way.
There's two to come to mind right off the bat. One by Tupac and the other one by Eazy-E.
Absolute. Dude, I said it to Zay today. Those are actually my top two. And Checkmate from Mr. Jadakiss, definitely considerable.
I got some shits for y'all, boy.
That's what I'm saying. And we don't want to overemphasize it now because we definitely want to enhance it on the actual show. But
I could tell you a diss track where a person diss basically everybody. Listen to Roxanne Shante, Big Mama. She dissed every top female rapper of the 90s.
One of the most.
Latifah, Light. She dissed all of them.
One of the most overlooked aspects is that when you think about Queensbridge and you think about some of the great artists that came out, I mean, obviously Nas is the king. That goes without saying.
Roxanne Shante.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of them.
Yes, sir. But the point I'm making is when Nas was still like a little baby, so to speak, Roxanne Shante was making history on a different kind of level.
Slamming shit, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. People overlook her. He was 14 years old. 15 years old.
Let's just say Baisley was popping. Let's just say that. All right?
Yeah,
you know.
Hey, I gotta.
Now you know.
I'll if there's someone that I don't know will be talked about on the show that I'd want to send a shout out to, it's Locksmith. He's out of Oakland, California. That guy right there is an incredible rapper, underground rapper. But he's got a lot of good disses on there. So yeah, check him out. I'll send you some stuff about him.
Okay,
that's someone I like a lot right there.
And this is one too, like the male version of what Roxanne Shante did years earlier, same borough. 50 Cent.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Bro, that was cold.
You talking about not How to Rob.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, how do you?
But 50 is petty.
I caught Black Street on the back street.
In a black Jeep. Yeah, that was
the Black Sheep.
Yeah.
But with 50 is a different type of dude.
No, because the thing is, and it's so funny because literally last night I was watching some YouTube videos revisiting the beef with him and Ja Rule.
Yeah. Oh man.
And it is so interesting because you know how I know I've said it on previous shows how I get frustrated if you have a biopic about a polarizing figure, but I don't think you necessarily did enough job with it. Like for instance, the Tupac movie. I was very disappointed.
Very.
Biggie movie was a little better.
Yeah.
The Gotti movie with Travolta.
Yeah.
Thumbs down. Yeah. The one with Armand Desant back in the 90s, thumbs up. That was dope. But I guess the point I'm making is there's a science to truly capturing it.
Yeah.
But when I look at 50's story and I look at Get Rich or Die Trying, I must admit, it was pretty on point. Yeah. Compared to some of the other failed attempts we've seen at trying to captivate an audience and really making them understand what the subject wants.
I think with the other movies, I think they tried too hard.
Absolutely.
To where Get Rich or Die Trying, they just kept it. Just like the movie Paid in Full.
And I'll be honest with you, bro. Yeah, Paid in Full.
They
Paid in Full.
nailed it. They nailed it.
They did. They did. But it's like Queens was. Oh, I mean, New York City in general. You're talking like the late 70s through the decade of the 80s. I mean, bro, it was crazy. It was crazy, and you know, it's like every borough is like a different dialect, so to speak.
Like people with the movie New Jack City, they don't realize that was based on Preacher. There was a guy in Harlem who was pushing the crack. He said, they think it was the Dayton brothers in Detroit. No, it was about Preacher.
Yeah, that was falsified.
Preacher killed his own people. Like,
coming out of the D,
yeah. But yeah, we got to do the hip hop show. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
I might have to be on that one with you guys.
Come on,
I'd be more than happy to have you with us. We're
Q needs to come on into it. Q grew up in my neighborhood. So Q knows.
Yeah, they're from around the same spot. Yeah.
Yeah. Queens, the Bronx, the same thing. Just the bridge. That's the only thing that separates the bridge. Yeah. Just the bridge. You can see it from the other side. They go Queens. You know. Yeah.
Anything you guys want to speak on coming up on the final 4 minutes before we get out of here?
NBA free agency, man. Just keep.
Yeah, it's.
Got to keep it peeled. Day 2, day 3, maybe day 13. I don't know. I want to see if the Knicks are going to enhance this roster because right now I don't want the same exact thing because I know it's going to be the same. So
we can't win with the same roster.
No, sir.
I want to know what I'm going to keep an eye on for is will we have a DeAndre Jordan situation? We know he agreed to terms with Dallas and then he flipped and went back to the Clippers. You know, is there going to be someone that does that this year? Would a Kyrie Irving be the guy that does it? You know, those are things. Portland. Yeah,
Kyrie and Luka year 2. I said this to a good friend of the show, Keith Woolridge, diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. Shout out, beast of the NFC East, supporters of our show. Much love, much respect.
They accepted my requests.
Yes, sir. You're back. You're in there.
I'm back.
But
they booted me.
You know, I told Keith, you know, Kyrie is a complicated dude, but I think that this particular season, I just got that vibe that it's going to be all ball. Because one thing about Mark Cuban, and you look at his record, well, of course, that helps.
Yeah.
But even more so than that, I think Mark Cuban and him really had that kind of conversation that needed to go down. I think Kyrie is going to lead the way. Luka needs to follow. And if Kyrie does what I think he's capable of, a la the upset of all upsets when they came back from 3-1 against the greatest regular season team of all time, the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, because the new $100 million man got suspended for Game 5.
Because that series was over.
Yeah, it was. But the point to be made, is Kyrie balled the fuck out.
The one thing about Kyrie, I give it. When it counts, he's showing up.
He shows up.
It's just, when are you coming to practice?
There's a lot of complexities. Like you go back to the COVID thing, and you go back to a very controversial tweet.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It's like he couldn't get out of his own way in terms of doing what his true calling is, which is being a phenomenal basketball player. I think this is the year that it's all ball for Kyrie.
I hope so.
And it's also a full off season for Dallas. They're not done yet. While they can't go out and sign another big name player, they could still sign good role players, or they could still facilitate a trade with someone.
Absolutely.
I think the full off season with Luka and with Kyrie is going to go a long way. You know, what were they? 8-23 or something like that?
Yeah, it was weird. They just didn't look comfortable. And then, you know, you had the accusations of the honest.
There was too much. There was
too much shit going on. But Mark Cuban loves that team. He loves that franchise. He takes this business very serious. And I know he wouldn't be pushing that money out unless he truly believed that Kyrie is about all ball. I keep reemphasizing all ball. Way too early predictions. It's only day 1 of the true splashes. I've got the Boston Celtics and the Golden State Warriors rekindling what was the finals of just the year before this past one. And it's so much time to be had. Dude, we are 4 weeks away. Tomorrow, officially, the new season starts with the NFL.
For you guys, it's this month. For me, I got 12 more minutes, and then I can say they're strapping on the pads this month.
Yes,
You know, they're showing up to training camp. We got
You got a little
preseason
time.
coming up next month. Football is almost back, boys, and you know that's another thing to keep an eye on. Dalvin Cook, things
15,
like that.
14, 13. Okay.
So
10-second mark for Mr. Zappy, for Mr. Idris Salam. I am your host, Richie Hicks. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and watching. We are out.
peace.